Good evening, everyone. This is Prajakta from the Product and Trainings team at NGEN Research. I would like to warmly welcome you all on behalf of NGEN Research for our Friday's webinar today. Meanwhile, others join. What I will do is I will just give you a brief of what our topic for today will predominantly revolve around. So we will predominantly discuss about comparing performance of mutual funds with their respective benchmark indices. In this, we will also see how can we load a specific category of mutual funds, what are the different ways to load them up. Secondly, we will also see how can we really compare them with respect to their benchmark indices, being let's say Nifty 50 or Nifty mid cap index, understanding how it really measures up with the beta, their correlations with the benchmark, of course, and the annual excess that is really generated by each of the mutual funds schemes individually with respect to the benchmark. Secondly, we'll also see how we can really run a monthly SIP analysis, point-to-point analysis, and rolling returns. Specifically in monthly SIP, we will also see how a specific fund-related SIP compares with a specific stock, underlying stock, and also with respect to entire benchmark taken together. Next, we'll move ahead and look how drawdown analysis can be done even on a singular fund basis, fund to fund, and even on the index for that matter. We have introduced this feature very, very recently. It's a recent development by NGEN Research. Initially, it was definitely possible on a portfolio level. We have also introduced this on specific fund level. We will go ahead and look at that. And then lastly, we will definitely throw up the forum open for a Q&A session where you can get your queries answered. You can do so by directly unmuting yourself or just typing in your question in the chat box. Let's now begin our webinar. So for today's webinar, what we will definitely revolve around is basically two specific tabs on NGEN Markets. Firstly, the funds tab and then the compare section. Let me just show you three different ways of really loading a specific category of mutual funds on NGEN Markets. First, you can just go to the funds section. In the funds section, there is a section. First is screener, second is category averages. Let's say for a use case for today, we want to load in mid-cap funds as a category in the compare section and want to run analysis on them. All you need to do is select category averages, select the asset class being equity, and then just click on mid-cap funds. When you do that, the entire, you can see there are 29 mid-cap funds currently trading in Indian markets. When you click on the drop down, you will have each of the fund in that specific category. And then let's say you want to take this entire category to the compare section. All you need to do is click on this specific row, which will let you click here to transfer all the mid-cap funds to compare. When I click on this, the entire category gets loaded in the compare section right away, right? You need not go ahead and add each of them one by one. So that's one way of doing it. Within the matter of next 5 odd seconds, it will get added. So that's one way of adding the entire category to compare section from the funds tab. You could do it for any specific category. Second way is in the compare section itself. Let me just remove all of this. Let's say you want to perform this specific relative analysis for some selected 4 funds. Let's say selected 4 mid-cap funds. For that, what you can do is just come to the compare section, go up to add security and add a fund one by one manually. Let's say you want to add in a PGIM mid-cap opportunities. Just search for it right here and go ahead and add that specific fund. Let's say you want to add in quant. Just type it and just add it up like this. That's another way. That's the second way of doing it. Of course, this is a difficult, it's a manual way of doing it. The third way is directly adding entire SEBI category from the compare section itself. So just come to the compare section and add it from the add groups beside, just below this, it's add a SEBI category. Here, just type mid caps. When you do that, you will have the entire category. When you just click on this, the entire category will get loaded, similar to what we saw in the fund section. So these are specific 3 ways of adding the entire category in the compare section. Now, let's say because I mean we are trying to run a relative analysis on vis-a-vis a specific index, what we can do is sort them up as per their ages, and we can say we do not want to include very young funds which do not have a reporting history of let's say 3 years. So what we need to do is just delete them up from the compare section right here. You can just delete them. I mean, first of all, sort them up in age and then delete all of them which do not really meet your criteria of 3 years of reporting history. Just delete them up from here. And then once you're done, you can also save this list saying, I want to include only mid caps which have an age of minimum 3 years. So for our webinar today, I have already saved that list. I will just load it up right away. In the my list, just click on my list, and when you save any specific list, it will get added right here. So this is the specific list. I will just load that up in the compare section. So now I have taken a criteria that it should have at least a minimum reporting history of 3 years. So when I click on age now, I can see that it's a minimum age of 3+ years. Now let me perform further analysis on this. Now this as a category is a mid-cap category. Let me just scroll up towards the right, and here you can see a pink or purple columns, and this is specifically the columns where you would add a relative benchmark. So a relative benchmark for any mid-cap category would be, let's say, a Nifty mid-cap index. So let me just go ahead and add a Nifty mid-cap 100 as a respective benchmark for it. You could definitely go ahead and choose whichever you think is appropriate. For use case today, I'm adding up Nifty mid-cap 100. When I do that, the specific funds will be compared against this benchmark. Just before proceeding further, you need to make sure two things. First of all, the start date of the specific index that you have chosen should be same as the returns column start date. For that, you need to do two things. Change the start date here. Let's take it from, let's say, January of 2020. Just choose 1st of Jan 2020. And since you have chosen this date for the relative benchmark, you need to also make sure that for the specific funds, that's the same specific start date. So choose 2020 and January. Just put January and just click on go. Oh, by the way, you need not worry about this red exclamation mark. This just says that you have chosen a custom start date. So it's from 1st of January 2020. So now that we are at a same level, so we can now compare oranges with oranges. It's the same start date for both. And now just scroll towards your right, and this is specifically what we can see. So let's say we want to sort it as per the highest annual excess that was generated by the specific funds. For that, just click on this column, which is annual excess. When you click on this, the entire fund list gets sorted on the basis of the descending order of the annual excess that was generated by these specific mutual funds. So we can see that Quant Midcap, PGM India Midcap Opportunities have generated an annual excess of close to 17.84% for specifically Quant Midcap over, of course, the benchmark. Oh, and this, by the way, is with a beta of less than 1. So beta as a measure, it's a measure of the sensitivity. So basically the risk of this specific fund with the benchmark. So a beta of Nifty Midcap 100 as an index with itself will always be 1. Beta of 1, that means it's the it has the same risk as per the benchmark. Any beta that is below 1, that specifically means that that specific fund has a risk which is lower than the benchmark. And a beta of above 1 says it is slightly higher risky as compared to the benchmark. So I can see that for Quant Midcap as a fund, annual excess is 17.84 with a beta of less than 1. That means a risk which is lesser than the benchmark risk. Let me just sort this as per beta, and we can see that with lowest to highest, even Motilal Oswal has a lesser risk as compared to the benchmark, and in spite of that, it has generated annual excess of 2.51%. Let me just sort this as per a descending order. So if I sort this as per descending order, so that means with a beta of more than 1.21, that specifically means higher risky than the benchmark under consideration, which is Nifty Midcap 100. Axis Midcap did not actually generate any annual excess. So in spite of being more risky than the benchmark, it has still generated a negative annual excess. That means there's no excess basically, right? For you can see for this. So in Kotak Emerging Equity Fund, it definitely has a beta more than 1, but it has definitely managed to generate an excess over the benchmark in the terms of annual excess, which is about 2.14%. So that's specifically how you can definitely go ahead and choose this as a parameter to really gauge which specific funds are really able to beat the benchmark and which of them are not able to, right? Second parameter is correlations. Here you will, what correlations really mean is how coordinated the movements of the funds will be with respect to the benchmark. So here the benchmark that we have chosen is Nifty Midcap 100. And when we click on correlations, we see that of course, in a ascending order. So we see that Quant Midcap Fund has a correlation which is less than 1, but very, very closer to 1, that is 0.89. So that many number of times. So when Nifty Midcap goes up, there is 89% likelihood that even Quant Midcap would go up. On the other hand, when we scroll down, we have HDFC Midcap Opportunities Fund, which has a correlation of very, very, very close to 1, which is 0.97. It holds up very, very close to the index that we have really chosen. So it will work vice versa as well. So when the index goes up, it will follow the index accordingly. And when it goes down, similarly will be the direction of their NAVs. A highlight of the correlations analysis that you can see here, even here in the correlations tab, is that it is calculated by our team on a daily basis. And what do I mean by daily basis? On the basis of daily NAV movements of these specific funds. So as the daily NAVs are updated, we also update correlations on a daily basis. So these are not stale figures, but current, very, very current figures. So that's specifically what you can see from annual excess, beta, as well as the correlations analysis. Let's now move ahead and look at monthly SIP analysis. In monthly SIP, let's say before proceeding to monthly SIP, let me just go ahead and add the benchmark right here as a row item. Okay, here in the main list, what I did was directly compare it with the relative column right here. But now if I want to run a SIP analysis and I want a row item here, which will have a Nifty midcap index, what I need to do is just go to the main list and here add that specific index. So to add it as a row item, I just need to add it up here. Nifty Midcap 100. And when I do that, it will get added as a row item. Yeah, it will just get added right here. So once this loads up, what we can definitely see is how it compares with the other funds. So we can definitely have that analysis. Let me just load this up. And then we can really perform how we can really check how it really compares with other specific midcaps as a category. Let me just go ahead and add in the midcap list. And then when we just click on monthly SIP analysis, we'll get to know which of the specific mid-caps were able to beat the benchmark on the basis of SIP returns invested during a start and end date. So right here, you just add that specific benchmark. Yeah, and then once this is done, just click on monthly SIP. Let's assume a monthly installment of, let's say, 10,000 rupees every single month invested. Let's take in the common period of 1st of January itself. Just go ahead and choose 1st of January and end date as yesterday, and then just click on run SIP. Once you do that, just sort this up as per their XIRRs. And we can see that when a SIP investment was performed during this specific time on this specific category, we can see, Nifty Midcap 100, which is the relevant benchmark, has given an XIRR of 21.70. On the other hand, all of these that are above this specific index right now have really managed to beat the benchmark in terms of a SIP analysis. So we can see that Quant Midcap, Motilal, HDFC Midcap Opportunities really managed to beat the benchmark. And let's say you want to run a detailed SIP analysis on one of them. All you need to do is just click on this Run Detailed SIP Analysis button, and it loads up in a different window. Assuming the same period, what we can see is that its XIRR of 28.10% was generated by this specific fund, whereas the benchmark XIRR was only 21.70. Let's now go ahead and dive in further. When we just open this specific mutual fund in a new tab, what we see is, let's just go ahead and look at the specific allocation. So we can see it as on 31st of December 2022, it holds a maximum in this specific stock, which is CG Power and Industries. And let us now just run a SIP analysis on even this stock. How that will help us? That will really help us in understanding how was it really able to generate this much excess with respect to the benchmark. I mean, that's just one way. You can definitely go ahead and run a SIP analysis on even a singular stock on our platform. For that, just go ahead and load that specific stock right here. So it was CG Power and Industrial Solutions. When we just click on this, we can see that in this specific time, a SIP that was run on this specific stock would have generated a XIRR of 28%. And that is one of the probable reason that this specific fund was able to beat the benchmark with respect to the XIRR that was really generated. So benchmark XIRR was close to 21%, and the fund's XIRR was 28%. So the components of the mutual fund that it really invests in, of course, as on a specific date, are definitely a reason of it really outperforming or underperforming. Both ways, it will be both ways, underperforming the market or outperforming the benchmark. That's one way of running a SIP analysis and understanding which of them outperform. Secondly, we can also go ahead and look at yearly basis. So in calendar year wise, which were the specific mutual funds that really generated returns. And this, by the way, is calendar year. So January to December of 2020 as a calendar year, which of the funds were outperforming. So it was PGIM, India Midcap, and so on. So just click on it to sort it as per ascending or descending order, and you'll have that return. Now, let's say you want to look at it on a financial year basis. You do not want to look at it in a calendar year basis. You want to go ahead and look at it on a quarterly basis or financial year basis. For that, all you need to do is come to point-to-point analysis. When you come to point-to-point analysis, we have provided 5 different buckets. And here you can put a start and end date customized, basically. You can customize the start and end date. For example case, I have taken in 4 quarters of 2020. So I've just put in the start date of 1st of April 2020 to 30th of June 2020. That's the first quarter. And when I sort it up as per descending order, I can see that in this specific quarter, the outperformer was this. So PGIM Quant Nifty Midcap, which is the index, it is at 28.18, and it is closely followed by these specific ones. When we move on to the second quarter, this was the specific performance of these funds taken together. And let's say you want to take it on the entire financial year basis. Of course, here I've taken 1st of April 2020 to 31st of March 2022. And on absolute terms, by the way, this was the performance. Let's say you want to change it up and look at annualized performance. All you need to do is click on this button, and all of this performance will get sorted on the basis of annualized point-to-point performance. Just sort this up, and you will have what was the financial year performance of these specific mutual funds. Of course, with respect to the benchmark. So this is the benchmark, which is Nifty Midcap 100. It's 60%. And with respect to these were the underperformers, and these were the funds which really managed to outperform the index and the benchmark. Let's now move ahead and look at rolling analysis. Similar to monthly SIP and point-to-point, we can even run rolling analysis on these, especially all of these mutual funds with respect to its index. just click on average return. So this is the time period under consideration. Rolling window is 260, which is the equivalent of 1 year working days in a year. So that's why it's 260. Let's say you want to perform a rolling analysis for 2 years. All you need to do is edit this up and put 520. It will run a 2-year rolling period analysis on these specific mutual funds. And when you just click on average, they will get sorted as per their average returns generated in any 2-year period from this date, from 2019 till 2023. In any 2-year period, this was the average returns that were generated by these mutual funds on an annualized basis. So what was the percentage of positive returns? So you can see when we just sort them as per positive returns, we can see that quant mid-cap fund has managed to generate 100% of the times positive returns. It is even visible here. So there was even the low was positive 3.72. And on the other hand, even if we consider the index, which is a Nifty Midcap 100, it managed to generate positive returns only 89.74% of the times. Vis-a-vis the other components of that specific in that specific category, that's midcap. That's about rolling returns. And then if that specific client comes to you and says, I want to know which of the specific funds managed to give me a specific return in my a specific criteria. Let's say the client's criteria of generating objective of generating returns is, let's say, between 7% to, let's say, 30%. All you need to do is come to rolling analysis, scroll down to the rolling returns distribution and put in the range that was really required by the client. Let's say 7% and 30%. Just put this as the start and end date of this range, and you will have the specific frequency of mutual funds generating returns in that specific return bracket, which was the expectation of the client. Just click outside and you will have that these were the specific funds. So basically quant midcap as a fund really managed to generate returns in this specific time, 58.82% of, So quant midcap really managed to give returns in this specific range 41% of the times, of course, on the basis of 260-day rolling. And when you scroll down, you'll have others as well. So when we consider a mid index, so it was only 32.73% of the times. On the other hand, let's say a Motilal Oswal was able to generate this specific return in the client's expectation 31% of the times in this specific expectation. What you can also do is create a range. So let's say -5 to 0, 0 to 15, 15 to 20, and so on. So you will get to know exactly in what specific return range, what was the distribution of returns, in what probability. So that's about rolling returns. Let's now go ahead and look at drawdowns analysis. In specific drawdowns analysis, you will get to know which of the funds, specific funds, and what were their worst drawdowns. So we have 5 columns. It will give you worst drawdowns, second worst, third worst, and fourth worst, and so on. If you want to just sort them as per size, which was the, as per the size, which specific fund had the worst drawdown. When you sort it as per size, just click on it to sort, and you can see that Nifty Midcap as an index itself has the highest drawdown size. So when you just click on that window on this history button, you will exactly know what was the magnitude of the loss that was experienced, what was the start price, I mean the index price when this specific loss started, when did it specifically end, and how much time did the index take to recover from that specific loss. So we can see that from this specific loss of 40% the index took 170 working days to recover from that specific loss. So on a graphical basis, wherever you see a gray period, that's specifically the indicator of the drawdown. Let's say you want to look it up for a specific fund. Let's say you want to analyze Aditya Birla Sun Life Midcap Fund and its worst drawdowns, top 5 worst drawdowns. Just click on this button and you will have that specific drawdowns right here. So there was a loss of 37.09%. At that time, the NAV of the fund was 293. When the loss ended, as on 24th of March 2020, the drawdown specifically ended. It was 100 and it reached 184.63, and then it took 178 days for the fund to really recover from that loss. And it was on 27th of November 2020, and then again begin the growth trajectory. That's specifically what drawdown analysis helps you understand on a fund level, right? This is specifically where we really end our webinar related discussion. We can now throw the forum open for Q&A. If there are any questions, kindly unmute yourself and ask them up. And our team will definitely answer it for you. So we have a question saying where to find alpha. So alpha specifically in terms of annual excess, if you're looking for that, that's specifically what is available in the main list. When you come to the main list and scroll on your right hand side, the column that we have here, which is the annual excess, just load in a specific index. Let's say as we did right now, let me just load in that specific index once again. Here this time, let me just take in Nifty Midcap 150 as a relative benchmark. Make sure that the start and end dates are the same. It's 29th July 2019. Just go ahead and put the same start date right here. So let's say 29th July. And once that's done, that's specifically the annual excess that's here. So that's specifically the alpha that you want. When we sort this up in ascending and descending order, you will have it right here. Over to you, sir, for the Q&A. Hello, Arunab sir, are you there?
Yeah, but carry on.
Okay, so we have the second, we have the second question, which is loading index funds to compare section gets stuck many times, perhaps due to 153 funds data. Any workarounds? Okay, so if there are no specific restrictions on the number of funds to be added as such, but if you're facing some specific the issues while loading 153 or plus funds, we can definitely look into it.
Yeah, hi. This is Arunab. I'll just also add to this. Generally speaking, the compare section hasn't been, designed to work with so many securities. So ideally, we'd ask you to kind of keep that number probably a little lower than that. It will most likely load if you wait long enough, and the computer is fast enough. But again, if you're looking at such a big universe, it's probably better to screen them on the screener, where you can select the entire category and then do your analysis there, and then maybe get a shorter list into the compare section. Hopefully that helps. There's another question saying that I'm unable to choose a start date before 20th December 2022 in your SIP comparison. That is most likely because one of the funds in your list may be very young. So the quickest way to find that is, as you can see on the screen, just go to the main list and sort by age. And if you have a fund that is, let's say, only 1.5, 2 years old, then you can, the SIP comparison where you're comparing many funds together, it will only run for the minimum common period across all those funds. So if you want to run a longer period, then you have to remove that fund that's only a couple of years old. And once you remove it, you'll see that the start date will open up to allow you for an older date. If there's any other questions from anyone, please just type them on the chat or just unmute and ask.
So there's one more question saying I'm not able to add or compare Nippon India ultra short duration fund, even not search that fund. Okay, so Nippon India ultra short duration fund.
Let's just check it, Projector, and now see if you can find it on the search. Okay, if it's not showing up here, we'll have a quick look to see why it's not showing up. This is short duration. So you're looking for another short duration fund. Yeah, but we'll have a look. Please note down the person's name and we'll get back to them.
There's another question which says, please show how to make list of funds again. Sure. So right here, when you just load in let's say this is the list that you want to save. As per, I mean, let me just remove this couple of them, and let's say this is the specific list that you want to save. All you need to do is, once this is added up in the main section, just go here, name this specific list. Let's say you want to name it as mid caps 5 years plus, right? So let's say underscore of 5 years. Just name this up and then just click on save. Once you do that, it will get saved up in your my list. And then when you want to just load that specific list, all you need to do is just click on my list, and you just have to find it where you have saved. So this is the specific list that I just saved. So mid caps underscore 5 years. So just click on that and it will get loaded.
And here it's worth mentioning that if you are from an organization which has more than one login for that company, you will be able to see the compare lists that have been saved by other users in your organization as well. So when Projecta click that, as you can see, she can see other people's compare lists also.
Come again, could not hear you properly.
I was saying that if you have multiple logins for NGEN Markets from your company, you will be able to see the compare list of your colleagues here as well. So if somebody else has saved a list that is useful, you can actually load it as well. So as you can see, Prajakta can see other people in NGEN Research who have saved lists, and she can load them on her own login as well.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Add portfolios items, please describe. Right hand side, add portfolios items.
Sure. So this means that if you have some portfolios saved in the portfolio section, or if you have some clients in the RTA connection or manual data clients, basically any portfolios that's saved in the system, and you want to add all the funds or stocks from that portfolio into the compare section, you can do it very quickly here. So for example, if you have a portfolio which has 10 funds already saved up, you don't have to go to the portfolio section, copy those funds or enter them here one by one. You can just in the compare section, type the name of the portfolio. It will show you what portfolios you have. And yeah, so let's clear the list. So as you can see, Prajakta is typing and she can see some of her own portfolios and she can click on a name, any of them, and the funds in that portfolio will get added here.
So there's one more question. Is it possible to download only monthly historical index data?
Sure. So obviously, historical index data downloads is available in the market screen, as you know. So we actually give you the option to download the daily prices. We currently don't have any place where you can download monthly data specifically. We've kind of provided you with all the data that's available. So you have the highest level of granularity, and then you can obviously pick and choose from there. But currently, there's no place where you can download at a lower frequency of data than we have. You can, of course, open the Excel and derive the monthly data from there. We have given you a column of returns as well, but monthly isn't available here. Any other questions, please just type on the chat or let us know.
There's one more question. Does the tracking error for international funds include currency movements? Example, Motilal S&P 500 vis-a-vis S&P 500 index may include INR versus dollar movements.
No, great question. So currently we don't. So we basically, obviously the S&P index is in US dollars, and let's say the Motilal fund ETF or NAV will be in INR. So currently it is not adjusted for the dollar INR rate. It is basically showing you all the calculations as is based on the prices.
Is the last month, last week session is already been.
Sorry, could you repeat your question, please?
Last week session, that video recording is available.
Yes, absolutely. You can access all the video recordings on our YouTube channel. You can easily find it on Google by just typing NGEN Markets YouTube, or even inside the platform, there is a link to the YouTube channel. Prajakta, if you can just go back and show Yeah, so there's the link there and you can click that. And all the historical webinars are saved here. There's one more question asking if we can add a few members of a family, for example, different portfolios to the compare section. So definitely you can do that. So Prajakta, let's move to the client section and then select 2-3 members of a family with load multiple clients. Um, so, so you just basically follow this process. You select a few members like this. And then, yeah, create that group, just call it something. Remember, this is not saved, it's just for the purposes of naming it so that the PDF report will show, you know. So now when you do this, it's a slightly longer process. You have to run analytics on this. And once you do, then you'll get the compare button on top. And that will actually add all the funds in this. So there are total 17 funds across all 4 members. So once the analytics runs, you have this compare button, and this will actually clear the compare list and add all these to the compare section. Well, there's a great suggestion on the chat. Prajakta, could you just search for Nippon India USD fund? Just type USD after Nippon India. Okay, there you go. So the person who had asked about the ultra short duration fund. So sorry for the naming here. This must be coming from the data provider, but the ultra short duration fund is there. It's just for some reason called the USD fund as an abbreviation. So that solves that problem. Yes, even the Guild Security Fund is named GSF for some reason. We'll check with the data provider. Some of these funds we've seen with I think Greater China Fund, etc. They have some weird abbreviations. They seem to be random, but we'll check it out. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to just write on the chat, please, or unmute and ask, please. Prajakta, can you check if there are any other questions unanswered on the chat?
There's just one question.
Yeah.
When we start SIP in stocks, some of the stocks were showing wrong returns. Show me the stock name CESC SIP running from 1/1/2020 till date. CESC, one second.
This could have something to do with corporate actions. Let's see.
Oh yes. Yes,
Yeah,
sir,
that's
yeah.
will be a corporate action. So we will fix that. Just make a note of that, please.
Yes, sir. No more questions on the chat box. So if there are any, yeah, 1 second. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
मैडम ये जो आपने बताया कि पर्टिकुलर स्टॉक का हम देख सकते हैं क्या परफॉर्मेंस पे क्या एक्स्ट्रा बेनिफिट है तो उसका कैसे हम फिर से देख थोड़ा बताइए उसका पर्टिकुलर एसआईपी या लमसम में
Sorry, I got cut off there. Is there any question that was missed up?
Yeah, he's wanting to know something about any stock into SIP. So just Prajakta, just take any one stock and just show how the SIP functions.
So here, when we do SIP on stocks, we change the number of shares that you're buying every time, depending on the exact installment. Obviously, the number of shares must change slightly based on the price. So that adjustment is done. Do you have any specific questions on this?
ये पर्टिकुलर शेयर्स पर्टिकुलर कंपनी के शेयर के लिए एसआईपी फंड के उसमें आएगा ये आपने जो इधर डिनोट किया है
हाँ जी सर, यहाँ पे जब एसआईपी के टूल में आप या तो म्यूचुअल फंड रन करिए या तो आप स्टॉक रन करिए या आप इंडेक्स पे भी ट्राई कर सकते हैं। तो तीनों ऑप्शन है आपके पास। जैसे हमने अभी स्टॉक पे चलाया हुआ है हिंदुस्तान
ठीक है
यूनिलीवर पे,
ठीक है
तो उस पे आपको एसआईपी का रिजल्ट दिख जाएगा कि अगर आपने इसमें फॉर एग्जांपल 5,000 रुपए पर मंथ किया होता इस पीरियड पे
अच्छा
इस
ये
स्टॉक पे।
अच्छा पर्टिकुलर स्टॉक पे ये हो रहा है
हाँ जी, ये सिर्फ स्टॉक पे हो रहा है। अगर आपको फंड पे करना है, आप लेफ्ट साइड पे फंड पे सर्च कर लीजिए, वहां पे आपको फंड मिल जाएगा।
फंड पे पर्टिकुलर स्टॉक का कितना क्या इफेक्ट पड़ रहा है उसको वो नहीं इसमें हो रहा है ना
अच्छा, उसके लिए सर आपको फंड एनालिटिक्स रन करना पड़ेगा।
अच्छा
वहां पे आपको प्रोजेक्ट जस्ट कोई भी फंड ले लो। हाँ, सो इसमें आपको एसेट एलोकेशन में दिख जाएगा कि इस फंड में क्या क्या स्टॉक्स हैं।
ठीक है
लेकिन एक स्टॉक से फंड के रिटर्न में कितना इफेक्ट हुआ,
जी
ये बात क्लियरली पता करना बहुत मुश्किल है सर, बिकॉज ये लोग
वही चीज है ना
म्यूचुअल वो सर वो इन्फॉर्मेशन देते ही नहीं है ना ये लोग। हमें हमें
हाँ तो
महीने
वही
में
मैंने
एक
ये
बार
कैसे
बताते
कैसे
हैं।
कैसे जनरेट कर दे रहा है रिपोर्ट इसी
सर ये तो सर ये सिर्फ फंड मैनेजर ही बता पाएगा, क्योंकि
नहीं नहीं
ये लोग ये लोग महीने में एक बार हमें बताते हैं कि इनकी पोजीशन क्या है।
हाँ
अब
मैं
महीने
वही
के बीच में इन्होंने क्या बेचा, क्या खरीदा, कौन से प्राइस पे बेचा, कौन से प्राइस पे
हाँ
खरीदेगा, ये इन्फॉर्मेशन तो सर सिर्फ फंड मैनेजर को ही पता है।
मैं वही कह
ये
रहा
वो
हूँ
हमें नहीं बताते
ये
हैं।
रिपोर्ट निकली नहीं सकती वही तो मैं सोच रहा हूँ कैसे
नहीं
पता
सर,
होगा
ये
और
report
सर अगर
publicly
कोई
available नहीं है सर।
अवेलेबल नहीं है, और सर आपको कोई प्लेटफॉर्म बोलेगा भी नहीं कि उनके पास एट्रीब्यूशन है, तो वो एट्रीब्यूशन गलत होगा। मैं गारंटी दे रहा हूँ कि वो गलत होगा, वो
हाँ
सही हो
वही
ही
कह
नहीं
रहा
सकता।
ये हो ही नहीं सकता ना यही बात
हाँ जी, हाँ जी,
ठीक है सर
थैंक यू जी।
ओके
If there are no other questions on the chat projector, I think we can close up. Oh, sorry, hold on. There's one more question. So how do we know the list of modifications in development? So we have various methods of letting our users know of all the new features coming up. One is that we have a Twitter feed. You can check out the Twitter channel, Twitter site on inside the application, or you can just subscribe to NGEN Markets on Twitter. So we keep, other than the insights that we publish there, we also keep putting, our updates in here as well. And separately for that, we do send out emails every month or so with the new features that have been released. In terms of letting users know about what we are working on, that is not something we have, currently a system of kind of making, kind of informing. Generally speaking, once the new feature has been tested and fully accepted by everybody in NGEN, we go ahead and release it. So generally speaking, we always tell users once the new feature has been released. We can unofficially obviously tell you things we are working on. At this point, we are working on quite a few things. The screener, for example, will have an as of date coming up very soon, where you can look at not just the latest data, but you can turn the entire screener back in time to, let's say, 31st January or 31st December. So the last few months will be available, and the months will keep getting added as we move ahead in time. We're also adding a weighted probability return to the rolling return statistics, where you distribute where you can distribute the results of the rolling returns analysis into various different ranges. And on this end of this list, there will be another new column which will show you the weighted probability return. So it's a nice measure to look at. And based on all of this work, we're also going to be releasing a set of strategies soon, which are mathematically generated portfolios, which hopefully people will find useful. Along with that, we are also almost ready to release a technical analysis feature, which should be coming in soon. If there are no other questions, Prajakta, just check on the chat. If not, then we can close for today.
Sure, sir. No other questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, for taking out time and attending our webinars. Do stay tuned for further webinars. Every week we come up with a new topic, and at the same time, every Friday 4 p.m. we'll have webinar sessions. You can definitely check out our recordings that are really getting uploaded very on our YouTube channel. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel, NGEN Markets, and you will have the recordings of all the past webinars that have really been conducted. Thank you everyone again for joining in. Have a great weekend.